Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, and thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thy is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you. I'd ask any member of council have a pecuniary interest and or general nature thereof. Seeing none, if it does arise any time throughout the meeting, it can be declared. We do not have a closed session to start, but I do understand there is one matter. We do have another spot at the end of the agenda, and I think we will be going into closed session there for a few minutes. And for that, it'll probably be an employee negotiation update. Public information, I don't think we have any. Is that me doing the beeping here? Are we sending it out by Morse code as well, too? Is that what I hear?
Part of the accessibility.
Part of the accessibility, Don, yes. The consent agenda. For those ones that are there, I have a motion moved by Don B. Marshall, seconded by Bev Cutting. Be it resolved that items A1 to C1 inclusive contained in Part 1 consent agenda be adopted. And further, that authorization be given for the actions to be taken as may be necessary to give effect to the recommendations contained therein. Any questions on the consent motion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay, there you are, Mark. So Mark, you'll hand out those. Motions to give direction. Well, there's no awarding of tenders. Communications from Mayor and Council. And is there any communications that any of the councillors have? Councillor Lawrence. Carol?
I just want to report that very successful Christmas in the Village in Newstead this year. There were many different groups that participated and to make it such a success, and it started at noon downtown and finished, you were there, Mr. Mayor, I guess about 5:30, quarter to 6.
Yep.
I haven't got the number in front of me, but it was something like 250 ballots were from the stores. Like people signed a ballot that day and was in for the draw. So that was a pretty good turnout. And, there was a good turnout at the arena, at the free roller skating, and it was successful. And certainly the parade was excellent. It was well put together. The firefighters and Caitlin deserve kudos for that. It was very good.
Absolutely. Any other members have anything? Councillor Cutting. Bev?
Yes, on December 1st and December... It's your turn. December 1st and December... ceremonies in...
I just wanted to say the Durham girls did all three in 24 hours. The Durham and Hanover on the Saturday, Newstead on the Sunday. And again, the West Grey flag was flying high, carried along.
Any other council members have anything? Would like to say I represent the municipality on Saturday at the Holstein non-motorized parade down on Holstein. Again, rode on the Southgate float. Southgate puts a float in and invites a number of elected officials. Our MPP was there. Our MP said his regrets. He believed he was in Winnipeg. Usually both are there, but for this one, it was only our MP. Myself, the new mayor of Wellington North, Mayor Lennox was on the float with us as well too, as a number of the mayor from Southgate, of course, and a number of the council members from Southgate were there. Very good parade again. Maybe wasn't quite as big, but the weather was considerably better, Councillor Lawrence, than it was last year when the Durham girls' bugles froze up. That's how cold it was last year. So we appreciated being in the parade this year. I know a couple of councillors joined me and the deputy mayor in London on Friday for the Southwest Municipal Conference. It's put on by Municipal Affairs, or their satellite out of London. A very good conference again. It was, as I said, well attended. The attendance was on average to what it has been, so saw a number of new faces there at that, and some very good sessions on housing, community housing, certainly strategic planning and municipal infrastructure or asset management was a very good course on that, and government and economic development. Those were kind of the three between housing and asset management and governance were the three. There was 25-year awards were given out, and two kind of have a connection here with Grey County individuals. Our neighbor, the former deputy mayor of Chatsworth, Terry McKay, received his 25-year pin, and a landowner in West Grey, Vince Judge, who still is a councillor in North Perth. Vince has been on council in North Perth and Listowel for 28 years, and 28 years and counting. Obviously, he's back on for another 4 years. Just finished up being deputy mayor of North Perth and ran this time for council, and he's been warden twice of Perth County. So good to see Vince and Terry, kind of neighbors and residents here in West Grey, being recognized for that. Just like to say that we have one member on this council that has her 25-year pin as well too. She has a 25-year pin. She sits to the far right of me. Councillor Lawrence was recognized a couple of years ago for her. Yeah, okay, fine. I wasn't going to get right down to the exact numbers, but congratulations to those ones, and again to you, Carol, for having that. A number of activities coming up, and before I go, and so we can get it on there to everybody, have a Merry Christmas out there, because we are really heading into the Christmas season, so I'll say that from here. Very good. Mark, what do we got? If there's nothing else on, no other... no other, then we don't, do we have a delegation?
Or just the long-term?
Yeah, long-term, that's what I was thinking, not really a delegation. Well, I do have the privilege, we have some long-time service awards. Speaking of those 25 years, I'm not, I know that we don't have the 25-year members. That doesn't sound any better, Mark. Technology isn't helping us out here at all.
microphone on.
Do I have to keep that mic on there?
I know, but it's so bad. But we'll see.
We'll see how it goes. Okay. Any business arising from the previous meeting? Don't believe that I know of any. So we'll move down then to the Director of Finance, Carrie's report. And if I can get here. Oh, there is 96 pages in the package.
Which one?
Which?
Yeah. What page is it?
No, PDF. So I got the pages here, but which page is it?
37.
Oh, yeah.
That's why.
That's my report. It's back here. That's your report. That's not the report. Not too much.
Oh, I got it now.
You've stated now as the vouchers. Okay.
Yep, there we are. Okay. Whew. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Kate. Yeah, we still need a little bit more work with the iPads here. Took us 4 years to figure out how to turn the laptops on, and now you flipped us to iPads. So we're here. The first report is the vouchers, and I just ask they were in our package. Is there any questions on the vouchers before I introduce, or do you want me to introduce the motion? There's no questions on the accounts. Then I will have the motion is moved by Carol Lawrence and seconded by Bev Cutting. Be it resolved that the Director of Finance Treasurer be authorized to pay the accounts presented as voucher number 23, 2014 of the Municipality of West Grey in the amount of $895,054.01. Are there any questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. The next one, Carrie, is on the transfer to reserves. And you've got them outlined there from police to economic development. Are those surpluses that are left in a number of budget lines from, as I said, those ones from Public Works and Fire. Questions to Carrie. Bev? Councillor Cutting?
I know that...
Dawn, can you get her mic for her?
If it's gonna... I'm not sure if in previous years we've put any surplus in parks, because I know there was a few projects that we did not accomplish this year or finish. We're started but not finished. Have we done that in previous years?
No, I think any of those might have been ones that we're going to pull from a reserve in the prior years. Fire pits were coming from parkland,
right,
things like that, so we just didn't pull them out.
Okay.
So the money would be in the reserve. It'll just stay there. And if we get to those projects coming in 2015, it will come back out. Okay.
Like the entrance signs that were not complete.
I ask every year, but just to confirm, cemetery and library automatically, if there's a surplus, it goes into reserve for those two?
Yeah, they're in your budget bylaw. It specifically mentions water, sewer, cemetery, and library.
That was the Public Works. Motion was, or number 4, I believe it is, for Public Works was pulled out and be dealt with separately on a separate motion after the discussion today. Okay. I have a motion moved by Doug Hutchison and seconded by Rob Thompson. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Garry hereby approves the year-end transfer recommendations 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6 contained in the Director of Finance Treasury Report, FTR 12, 15, 14. Any questions on that motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. And we pulled, out of that report, we pulled number 4. A few years ago, the municipality had set up a winter maintenance reserve in case we hit a winter where got fairly severe. Very surprising. 2014 was a winter that was very severe, Ken. So we discussed that today, and we're still not certain whether in Ken's budget there was a few things in summer maintenance and roadside maintenance that was trimmed back a little bit to offset that within the budget, and then we still have that reserve. So we've tried to formulate this motion tonight to recognize whether it can be offset within the budget and or if not, the netted out to balance from transfer from reserve. Okay, any questions on that? I'll introduce the motion then. Moved by Don B. Marshall and seconded by Bev Cunning. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Garry hereby approves the year-end transfer from the Winter Control Reserve for any 2014 year-end deficit when comparing year-end budget to actual revenues and expenditures for the Public Works Roads Department. Any questions on the motion? John, Deputy Mayor Bell.
Just one, Mr. Mayor. Recognizing this is a reserve and recognizing that we're not too far along in the winter yet, I guess I would hate for us to get caught flat-footed again. And I mean, we broached this subject, I guess, at the meeting this afternoon about maybe just taking half of this and applying it towards this and being able to keep half in the reserve in case of future use that could come either this year or next year. So I'd welcome any discussion on that.
Well, I think it was the committee that the way we formulated was that it wouldn't, the deficit, because right now we're in about 60,000, give or take, 56, 60,000 on that right now. But Ken has some surpluses in other parts of his budget. So the way this motion is, John, is that, you know, at the end of the year we'll balance it out, and if there is some deficit left, then it can be pulled instead of just offsetting directly the winter maintenance budget on this part.
For accounting purposes, if that works better, we can do that.
Carrie?
Yeah, it'll just look at it as the department as the total roads budget, so it should be less than that. Ken had kept a little bit of room when he knew he was going to be over on winter control, so it might be sufficient to fund it.
The next one is report number 3 that Carrie has, is basically a housekeeping on paying all the accounts, outstanding accounts for 2014. Any questions on that? If not, I have a motion moved by Rob Thompson, seconded by John A. Bell. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Garry hereby authorizes the Director of Finance Treasurer to pay all outstanding accounts for the 2014 year. Any questions on that? Auditors like to see this at the end of the year. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. And the next one, Carrie, number 4, is your supplementary write-offs. Any questions or comments? Questions for Carrie on this? Councillor Hutchison. Doug.
Can you just briefly explain that, Carrie, just so I have a little better understanding?
So this is the total of all the supplementary and omitted assessments. So that's for new construction, whether it's commercial, residential, new houses, additions, agricultural buildings, and that will be picked up anywhere from the current year or plus the 2 prior years, depending on when MPAC adds it to the assessment roll. So that's not just a 2014 value, but that is, we billed it in 2014, but it could include up to 2 prior years of taxes in those supplementary and omitted assessments. And then the write-offs, if people have appealed their assessment and they get minutes of settlement, or if they had a fire, we file what we call a 357 application, and that removes the fire that was raised by, or the building that was raised by the fire from their assessment values. They get unit rebates, are for commercial or industrial buildings, and people apply for those if their property, if they meet the conditions and their property's, commercial or industrial property's been vacant for the year. So then that gets us down, and that local levy portion is our portion only, not, it doesn't include the county and the school board that would also be in there, but that's net what we will keep from those billings this year.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions? I have a motion moved by Carol Lawrence and seconded by Bev Cutting. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby approves the supplementary omitted taxes and write-offs in the amount of $86,140.43 and $95.14 for local taxation and BIA area rates, respectively. Any questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. And then the last one there is just for information, Carrie, on the council remuneration for year to date. Any questions on that? Anything else to report, Ms. Wightman?
Just a reminder, I had mentioned it at the meeting earlier today, to submit your timesheets for December. I can get them, if you need them tonight before you go, or get them to me first thing tomorrow morning. This will be our final payroll that we'll be processing for 2014. So in order to get it on your T4 for this year, otherwise you're going to have an extra month on next year. If you want to estimate, if you have any further meetings, like the committee of the whole meeting on Monday, include that on there. If there's another meeting, it gets canceled, we can adjust it in January, either remove it or add a new meeting. But if you can kind of put those on there and get those submitted, then we can process that. So you've got 12 months worth of remuneration in the year, otherwise we'll cut it off at 11. So you'll get 13 in 2015 for your T4, so
okay.
For processing.
Any questions for Carrie at this point in time? No? All right, thank you very much, Carrie. You can probably make it to the curling rink now on time.
Until 9.
You can go home and take a little rest up for the curling rink then. All right. That should bring us down to Mr. Gould. Where are we there? Director of Infrastructure. Ken, thanks for being here. Your first one is on the bridge evaluation report for the Normanby Carrick Bridge and the Cultural Heritage Mitigation Report. You want to give us just a little update on that, Ken?
Yes, as part of the environmental assessment for the Norm McCarrick Bridge, we hired the services of Gantry and Manual Blue Plan, and they've undertaken the EA on this bridge, and part of the EA is to hire a special consultant to determine what the heritage value is included in the bridge. And they have, in the report here on the next page, they have presented some options and the reasons why it is they have determined that it is of heritage value. Some of them are I'm not sure about, but anyway, they declared the location a historical settlement area, and the steel and iron in the bridge, I guess because of its age, they consider that of heritage value. The riveted construction, early construction, and they go on to say that it's uncommon to have a single span. Well, I think probably 80% of our bridges are single span. So anyway, this is some of the part of the evaluation report they come up with. And they've also provided some options that we may want to consider. Certainly a couple of them in here I don't think you'd want to consider, but as far as I guess if somebody wanted the old bridge that's there, we'll have to come out, so whether it could be moved someplace where it's of value to some part of either South Bruce or West Grey, I guess that's yet to be determined, but they're asking for comments here, so we plan on setting up a meeting with the consultant. It'll be South Bruce and ourselves and the consultant to discuss this a little bit further, but I just wanted to bring it forward and ask for council's opinion about this. So.
The floor is open if there's any opinions out here. There should be. John, Deputy Mayor Bell.
Well, Mr. Mayor, being involved with this project for quite a few years because of the length of time it seems to get something organized in order to bring it forward, it's pretty well, in the last number of years, Ken, you've had to put a lower limit on that bridge, and I can't exactly remember what it was when I started with West Grey, but I think it might have been 20 ton, but I think it's down to 5 now, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
It says right here, the do-nothing alternative was assessed, and although the structure would be retained in the short term, continued deterioration of the bridge would result in eventual closure of the road. So why would we want to fix an old bridge? Because you still have an old bridge. So going forward, recognizing the county's involvement with this, both Bruce and Grey County, the money's been set aside. I mean, I'm just not exactly sure what they're looking for here. This is just another, I'm not going to say it's another way to prolong the project, but that's certainly what it looks like instead of getting on with the project and getting it fixed. So I'm not in favor of any of this. I don't care if it's got rivets in it or if it's an old steel company or whatever. You're still going to be left with an old bridge, pure and simple. And then, we've proven the worth of that road. We've proven how many vehicles go across and use that road, which is, I'm going to say, in the top 10% of the roads probably used in West Grey, the amount of traffic that's on it. So why would you fix an old bridge? It just doesn't make any sense.
Anybody else want to weigh in? Councillor Marshall. On.
Well, to me, it sounds to me that they just want to add cost to the new bridge. So they take the rivets off the old bridge and put them into the cement on the new bridge and make it look pretty, just for historical value. And it just doesn't make sense. This new bridge will have its own historical value in 80 years from now. Do we save it and put it onto the next bridge? I don't think so.
Anybody else have any comments? Is there a chance that to replace put the new bridge in, the old bridge has to come out? Is there a heritage and cultural bridge museum that we can donate this bridge to, Ken?
I'm not aware of one.
Is there not, do we not have one that is just east of Newstead on County Road 9 on the north side of the road? We can set it in there for public viewing every Saturday between 9 and 4, is it not? Or is it 10 and 4 now? You're not going to bite on that one, are you?
Well, it's 8 to 4.
So, I don't get there as early as Bill does in the morning. I apologize for that. Yeah, it astounds me of what Gansey and Manrose come up with here, but is that the most reasonable option to satisfy them? So we're going to have to pull it out and be sent someplace. So, Doug?
Well, just reading from the information. Reading from the information that was shared, it looks like to me that the second photograph, which is a concrete steel bridge taken from Hamilton, was the idea. They're suggesting that you replace the bridge and then you put a commemorative plaque on one of the abutments and stick a few bolts on the side that come from the original bridge, and it's all said and done. So to me, that's a simple solution to the problem, and it looks like a logical solution, I think, and if it works, it works, and then we move on, without making too complicated.
Don, Councilor Marshall.
And I don't think there's a problem. It says at the end of the here that this may something we may wish to consider. So I say we don't consider it at all. We just put the new bridge in and leave the plaque off, because that costs money. Just put the new bridge in so people can drive over it and carry on.
And I think going forward, that may be the best idea. The bronze plaque that goes on a lot of those bridges is pretty difficult. I know I'm not going to stop on the bridge and read it, wait for the next car to come down and go whizzing past me. But a number of, not a number, but certainly 2 counties south of here, any of their bridges, they basically got a sign up on the both ends of the bridge. And some of them have actual names, and some just said bridge number 21, and some have White's Bridge, Black's Bridge, Kennedy's Bridge. Oh, I can go on with names, but, and right underneath it, the year that it was built, built 19, and it's a little steel at the edge of it, and everybody knows when the bridge was built and what the name of the bridge is. I mean, I think we replaced a bridge here 2 years ago with a prefab bridge down in Normanby, and we all called it, around this horseshoe, called it White's Bridge, but the locals will tell you that's not the name of the bridge. But who knew? If we had the plaque on the end of the bridge, I guess we'd be able to, yeah, that's exactly what it is. But for some of that historical stuff, I think going forward, instead of having a brass plaque at $2,500, $3,000.
Yes.
That you have a steel name that everybody driving past knows which bridge they're going over and when it was built, and $20 for each one, or maybe $20 for both of them. So, what's the flavor of council on this one? Councilor Marshall says take the bridge out, get the resale value for it. I don't know whether they take it to Scone or maybe straight to Hamilton. John.
Whichever one requires the least amount of reports, because engineers like reports because that's the way they charge. So whatever way requires the least amount of reports going forward to get the job done.
What's the least amount of cost? That's good. That sounds like a good direction to take and put in the minutes. You fine with that, Ken?
Yes, that's fine.
Good. Any comments, Mr. CAO, or feeling this good?
Your direction leaves a little to the imagination, Your Worship. We'll follow that direction implicitly.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else, Ken?
That's all I have at this time.
Any questions for Ken? He said everybody's road should be good to get home tonight, so. Very good. Okay. Clerk's report. We're down to that. Mark, the first report there is AMO. And talk about new process for school closures.
Yes, in typical provincial fashion, received this correspondence December 12th. Ministry of Education wants feedback by December 18th on proposed changes to the ARC, the review process for closing schools, school closures. They have noted 6 proposed changes that they want comments on. Of particular note to municipalities are one of them being to shorten the process and the number of required public meetings. And secondly, there is a recommendation to provide some additional, or at least an opportunity for municipalities to be involved in the process, including school boards potentially naming a municipal representative to the ARC. So that might be a positive. I'm not sure how council feels about the reduced time frame for public input and reduced number of public meetings in the process. That is often a point of contention where there isn't sufficient time and public input available. I'll leave that to council's direction.
Any comments? Councillor Lawrence. Carol?
Thank you. I have a concern with some of these changes that they are proposing, and one, a shift away from consideration of the impact of school closures to community well-being and the local economy towards a more exclusive focus on student achievement. And that, yes, student achievement is very important. But I also think the impact that it has on our communities and the economy is major. If you're in the city and you're closing this school, but 4 blocks down the road you've got another school, it's not such a problem. But let's take Normanby School, if it was closed. And I believe that's in that Fisher report somewhere, way down the road. I really have a concern there. And also, secondly, one of the things they're talking about is provision to consider school closings without an ARC. Well, I mean, you know what? They're just going to do what they want. If there's absolutely no ARC, no public input. And when I read that, and then I go back farther, and they're talking about the PARG review, the PARG review, it kind of doesn't mix, because they're talking about community hub and expected to promote efficient use of public assets and build better ties between schools and municipalities. They're talking out of both sides of their mouth here. It just, I really have a concern if the public and the municipalities aren't involved. And it's not new to have somebody municipally on the ARC. I was on the ARC for really great experience with...
How did you enjoy that?
Oh, I won't even go there, but the Chesley and JDSS committee. And even at that time, it was a farce, because I was the only one from West Grey until I asked that someone else from West Grey be appointed. There were 10 from Chesley and 14 from Hanover, I think it was. And I was told by one of the superintendents that we were just there as a courtesy. However, there were 66% of the students at JDSS were from West Grey. So the planning wasn't very good then either. So, but to take that away, even that amount away, I just don't think it's acceptable.
Councillor Hutchison. Doug? Go ahead.
I agree. I think the whole thing is motivated because of the deficit at the provincial level, right? And there is a concern with schools being half full and the money it costs to run those schools. But then on the other hand, like you said, Carol, when you take the small school out of the community, you lose a lot. And that's the issue we deal with here in our communities, is taking the schools, closing the schools, transferring those kids. I think it's a little different when you get into the high school level because they're riding on the buses, but the younger kids, it's tough. So, yeah, I agree that some of the things they're trying to do, like cutting down the process, I think they're asking for less input, saying that the board makes the recommendation before the committee even starts to work, the ARC committee. They're making a recommendation, say, this school, we're going to close. So now you tell us why we shouldn't close it, which is sort of backwards to what they have right now. So there are definitely some concerns of what they're doing there. I realize it's not an easy fix, and it is money driven, and that's the whole thing. I think like Sawbo School was one of the exceptions, went through this, and what they did is the community started to use the school and paid for part of the use of the school. And I think that's what the schools need to do, and what they need to look at is some way of being creative within the community to use that school so that it can stay open, and maybe the ministry doesn't have the same burden of costs on the school. But I agree, there's some real issues there, I think, with what they're trying to do.
Thanks, Doug. But in that, will the philosophy or the direction of the school board have to change about that public use? I mean, we sat around here 2 years ago or 3 years ago when it came to, the library in the school in Normanby, and, it was great to have the library in Normanby, but no, you can't have it, you can't run it at, any hours outside the school hours. So the public was a little bit, they've got to change their philosophy, because we had this discussion. John was there last week at the county, because county was commenting on it as well too, and there was a comment from Meaford about Meaford building a new library, and instead of building the new library, maybe they could use some of the space in the high school. I said maybe the high school would be, but there's this whole protection of vulnerable students and everything like that, and the public access to a public school. Sounds like a bit of an oxymoron as well too. So if that public infrastructure is going to be used, it's got to be opened up to be used, not be closed door the way they've focused it to be. I think there needs to be more public input, not less, when it starts discussing especially the rural schools.
More public and more conversation with the municipalities as well.
Yeah.
Because part of this, I see that the ARC doesn't even vote on a recommendation. They don't vote on they simply, pass it on to them.
Make comment. Make comment to the board.
Means nothing.
Yep. Go ahead.
If I can just add to that, I think, as I said, I think the whole thing has to do with the money issue, and that they're trying to drive this through and do as quick as possible, because they have all these schools with this extra space that they're paying for, and they're trying to recoup some money. So by closing these schools down, so it's really money motivated to do this, I think, and I agree that we need more input, and it's not an easy solution in our area, but even in the rural areas anyway. So. Maybe they have to find their money somewhere else and not change this process so quickly.
Well, I think maybe it goes back to that silo mentality. And let's be frank, we know in Grey Bruce, the Blue Water area, 30% of the classroom space is empty, isn't being used. So what are you going to do with that space? It was public tax dollars that certainly built it, put into that infrastructure. Can we open it up, whether it be municipalities or programming or other uses other than educational school uses to it? I think would be accepting those types of suggestions would be great from the ministry, and how that gets fed to the ministry. You need public input, not a school board going forward on the money aspect of it. So we need more input there. Go ahead, Carol.
This push is coming from the ministry, though, it's not from the school board. I mean,
Yep.
you need public, you need municipal conversation back and forth, and yet if they move, if they're just going to do it without having an article, without much, you're not even going to have a chance to try to come up with something that would fill in any reserves. And like, to me, it seems the mentality is close it because there's too much excess, there's excess space there. Like, I don't know how to stop it, but I think we need to try. We need to.
Need to have some input onto that.
I mean, that report that came to the board was scary. When you read through that report of consultant, meetings are 7 and 8 here, and down
Normanby.
Normanby.
Meaford loses a high school.
Yes.
There's a few other ones out there. Yeah, and, I'll be very public with it. There probably will be some schools that will close. I mean, that's, there's got to be some amalgamation. But I think it definitely needs public input on how that, not just arbitrarily, pick you because you just don't meet it and we're going to close the doors and lose that public infrastructure. We need public input on how better to use that public infrastructure, not just board it up and walk away. Okay?
Up till the 18th?
Yeah. No, we really, by tomorrow.
AMO wants the 16th.
Yeah, AMO wants it in by, AMO wants it tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
The 16th.
So let's get the meeting over with quick. So do we have anybody here How do you want to address this? John?
Well, Mr. Mayor, it was decided, I guess, at the county level that yourself championing on behalf of the county plus the lower tiers need to all be involved and make comment and want to be part of the process. And what exactly that entails, or what you wrote up here, I'm not sure, but we need to put some comments in that just want to be part of the process. It was also identified, and Councillor Lawrence, you can remember when the library was in Normanby, is some people brought up at that meeting what happened with that, and it seemed to be awful difficult for the public to get along with the Board of Education. And then it seemed awful difficult. I guess the Board of Education monitored things that went on in the school, but all of a sudden we had 2,000 books missing out of the library. And while we got most of them back, the cooperation that was extended, I don't think was in the public's best interest from the school board. I'll say that much, but pure and simple, that's the way it was. So going forward, we need to develop a better relationship, one that both can win at. So.
Councillor Cuddy.
Would it be
Go ahead, Mike. Yeah.
I would just recommend if council, just if they wanted to pass a resolution for staff to forward a letter to AMO to provide feedback. What I've garnered from council is there's certainly concerns with the shift from to student achievement instead of more so the impact on communities and the economy, the provision to close schools without our input or recommendation, and the reduced public input periods, time frame for input, coupled with the reduction in number of public meetings, and then, of course, possibly noting that there may be opportunities to share those costs attributed to the schools through partnering with various community groups, etc. So if that captures that, I could include that in a letter based on this resolution.
I'd also like to, if it would be possible, to put, or direction given, that the email that came out was on December the 9th, asking for municipal input.
Short time.
By,
Note that in the letter.
9 days later, and before Christmas, if the ministry, we would like to work with the ministry, I think, on something of this nature, but give us some time to be able to formulate how we can coordinate and cooperate with them.
It'd be nice if they responded as quickly when we ask questions rather than 7 months later.
I note that in the letter then as well.
If, Mark, you can note that, that'd be fine. Okay. Any other discussion on this then? We'll introduce the motion moved by Bev Cutting and seconded by Carol Lawrence. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby requests staff to forward a letter to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, to provide feedback regarding the proposed new process for school purposes by the Ministry of Education. Any comments on that? I think Mark has got it down there. Is that between you and Larry, you can formulate something? Very good.
Sure.
Excellent. Okay, any questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? I'll declare that carried. And I'm going to say to Larry and Mark, I know that the county, under the direction of the Social Services Committee, last Wednesday, that was discussed there, and they were formulating a letter to go to, so you may want to just touch base. I don't know whether it was Barb Feedy or I think it was Barb Feedy under the Social Services Director who was putting that letter together, and just kind of peruse what she had put in hers. Yep. Okay. We had asked our neighbors, Brockton, there had been a request for the Elmwood Community Center Board, and they've to some small amendments to the working agreement or the Community Center Board agreement that is there, and around the insurance and the auditor. And this is the response that Mark, you got back. So it looks like they will entertain it. We'll see the Mayor of Brockton tomorrow, so I'm just wondering if he could maybe fast track it and put it on for the 22nd, because I believe the board would like to see that done before the end of the year, Carol, so that they can have their own auditor and get insurance for 2015 going forward. Okay, so we'll follow up with that. Next one was a letter from the Regional Municipality of Halton. This one goes a little bit further to our neighbors right from the far south of the 49th, and they're the American understanding of free trade. So Mark is just looking for comments on that. Any concerns, questions, updates? Got a note and file it, and let the governing body who should be commenting on it from Ottawa get onto it. Everybody got okay with that?
Yep.
All right. County of Huron and the Township of Peely have a couple of letters in there that they're looking for support for petition for Canada Post and the residential home delivery. They're wanting to keep that up. Any comments? Thoughts? Doug, Councillor Hutchison.
I'm not sure how this really applies sort of to us, because we don't have home delivery in our community. Like we have mailboxes and super boxes, and we have a pickup at the post office, but we don't actually have home delivery. I believe they do in Hanover, do they not? Have home delivery? And I think that's still more applied to them than it is to our community.
I think, though, what County of Huron, especially, and maybe the Township of Pelee is looking at, it's the tip of the iceberg type of thing. Home delivery's gone. Canada Post is and I've heard rumor that they're talking about rural delivery dropping back, A, either to 2 to 3 days a week, or B, now there'll be a super box someplace 26 miles away or something of that nature. And they're trying to say that it's a constitutional right that you can go to the mailbox and get your mail every day. Carol.
Well, I do think it's I mean, we do have home delivery. We have rural home delivery.
Yeah.
And, I just can't see it working with the super boxes, the mailboxes out in some of those country corners. And then are we responsible for keeping them plowed around and so on? And I don't know. I would like to support it. And again, I know it's out of our jurisdiction, but it does certainly affect our residents.
Mark's got a motion here to that. If you want to do that,
See where it goes.
we'll entertain it. Don, Council Marshall.
I think Canada Post is trying to run a viable business here, and back in the 20s and 30s, when people went to town maybe once a week, that this was probably a viable resource to have your mail delivered in the country every day. But now, with people in town at least every day, maybe 3 times a day, that this is an evolving thing, and rural delivery once a day is, I'm thinking, ludicrous. Even every second or third day would probably be viable, maybe not cut it off altogether, and home delivery in towns, that is really something that in this day and age is I think, crazy. So I wouldn't be supporting their resolutions.
Yeah, just one comment. This is just a stepping stone, as far as I'm concerned. This is one avenue, and then all of a sudden we're going to lose our post office. We're going to lose the post office in the small rural areas, in Ayton and Newstead and wherever else. You're going to lose all this. I think we need to support this and stop this type of nonsense going on with Canada Post and cutting and removing all these services. They can afford it. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't support it.
Just to make another comment on that, Canada Post is one of these companies that's losing money big time, is it not? And I think there's a lot of competition with couriers and whatnot out there these days. So I think they're definitely going to have to make cutbacks to survive. And I think if this is one way they do that, then so be it.
Mr. Bell.
Well, I'm more in support of Mr. Thompson's idea than I am of the other gentleman's, I guess, because what we have is the county, and we've heard it many times through social services and different avenues, of the aging at home strategies. And if you have a bunch of senior citizens, especially in the rural areas, and they can't get out for one reason or another, unfortunately, late payments on a lot of bills do take, shall we say, precedence. Those people don't wait for anybody, and I think you're opening up a big can of worms, and I do believe this is the tip of the iceberg, like Mr. Thompson has said, that eventually, yes, they're going to whittle it down, and that's all fine and good. Not everybody can get to town once or twice a week to get their mail, and in order to keep those bills up to date, you need to do that. So I'm in full support of this, recognizing that there's probably going to be a compromise made somewhere along the line. We're going to lose part of it, but we don't have to lose all of it.
I'm going to introduce the motion here now.
Mr. Mayor, I'd ask for a recorded vote.
Very good. Mark, you got that? This will be a first one here. See, we're still using up some of the old paper. There might be a couple of old councillors on this one. You'll have to stroke a few of them off and add one. Just want to give you that before you start reading down, and there could be a couple of names come out here. I have a motion moved by Carol Lawrence and seconded by Bev Cutting. Resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Garry hereby supports the resolutions of Huron County Council and Pelee Township Council, indicating the respective councils do not support the proposed plan to eliminate residential home-to-home delivery, and herein petition Canada Post to reconsider this plan immediately and retain this valuable service for communities. And further that a copy of this resolution with supporting letters be forwarded to the local MPs, Canada Post representatives, Huron County Council, and Pelee Township Council. Any comments on the motion? Mark, take the vote.
Good luck to you.
Deputy Mayor Bell,
Yes.
Councillor Cutting, Mayor Eccles,
Yes.
Councillor Lawrence,
Yes.
Councillor Marshall.
No.
Sorry, that should have been, I missed Councillor Hutchison's. No. Okay, thank you. And Councillor Thompson.
Yes.
It's passed.
So the motion is carried 5-2. And I don't think you've got a lot more of these prepared resolutions, so this should disappear in its own manner. Don't worry about it, Mark. Your frugalness to use up those copies is well noted.
Electronic ID have to change.
Okay. And the next one, Mark, you have, this is on our land purchase, if you want to speak to that.
Yes, council did request that I get sort of a guideline on potential sale of former railway lands and road allowances, either in the urban or rural areas, from the realtor that we've hired for market value assessments, being Glenn Ray of Wilfred McEntee. I did note the one reference I make, $275 a square foot for road allowances or former railway lands, it says in urban areas. That should say rural areas. These values are quite higher than were obtained in 2010. That might in part at least reflect, obviously, increasing land values, particularly in the rural area. I would think in an urban area, if there was to be a building, if there was a potential building lot, I would probably recommend to council that an individual market value assessment be done for a potential building lot, even the rural or urban area for that matter. However, it's a little bit different when it's not a building lot. It obviously wouldn't be as great of a valuation, but even then, there's still, in the rural areas, Mr. Ray has indicated $275 a square foot in the urban areas, and $10,000 to $15,000 an acre in rural areas, which I think in 2010 it was like around $1,500 per acre. So that's increased about tenfold. So I'm not sure if land values have increased that much or not.
Looking for comment. Nobody? Do you want to accept this at face value? Doug, Councillor Hutchison.
Just a question, any ideas of how many properties or acreage you were looking at?
It's not really, this really isn't directed to a specific property this time. There are some properties, at least one or a few potentially for sale down the road, but obviously if council deemed it appropriate to close a non-open road allowance and sell it, or open roadhouse for that matter. As similar with the railway lands, we do have remnants of railway lands that we had purchased from the different former municipalities or townships that purchased from CP and CN. Most of it has been sold off to the property owners where it traversed, but there are a few still out there. Now, some may be kept for trails, specifically in Durham, for instance, but so it's not, this isn't really looking at one particular property. Again, in the urban area, if it's a building lot, I think you'd probably want to get individual assessment, but where it's a property that wouldn't create a building lot, it would just basically add to a person's property. Obviously, the value wouldn't be as high, but the valuation here is still fairly significant. I'm not sure if that would encourage property owners to purchase them or not. It's quite a jump.
Sorry, Councillor Lawrence. Carol?
It's okay. I think Mark has captured this, but I just have a problem where it says urban areas allowance of 66 by 100 is opinion to be valued at 30,000. I can think of one in particular in town. I won't say where it is, but surrounding lots sold for probably 2 to 3 times that much. So that, I think, absolutely, if it was in an urban area and it was a viable building lot, it would need to have a market value assessment on it because it's certainly worth more than 30,000.
Bev?
The resolution that was passed in 2010 only spoke to in the rural areas, so it did not speak to a building, and it didn't speak to a building lot per se. It was just more of a, there would be a strip of land that would be, or the railway land that would be attached, added to the individual's property as opposed to a building lot. Again, as Councillor Lawrence has mentioned, I certainly agree that where there is a building lot, either in the rural or urban area, we should get a separate, or council, I would recommend gets a separate market valuation. It can be quite different depending where it is and what features it has. If there's a river running through it, for instance, or some kind of natural environment, aesthetic kind of appeal or character to it.
But if we accept at our own price, this is just a...
It's deemed as a guideline, so it's a sort of a rule of thumb, but certainly there is, council is able to determine on its own its evaluation. But certainly if you don't agree with that figure, then I'm not sure if you'd want to even make it a guideline if you don't think it's appropriate.
Deputy Mayor Bell.
Well, it's okay to have guidelines, but I mean, I don't think we want to get too, shall we say, in stone, recognizing there are many features of properties everybody here knows, and its location, and all that kind of stuff. And I don't think we want to pigeonhole anything. Each property has its own merit, so if we need a specialized code, I mean, we've got our gentleman here who's willing to act upon us. I do think that probably, like the letter says, this probably should go out for tender again as to who we would use for those services. But recognizing that we have a number of options, I would like to keep them wide open depending on which property, whether it's in Newstead, whether it's in Durham, whether it's in Glenelg or Normanby or whatever it be, but let's not pigeonhole ourselves too much. So.
Okay. One thing that would be interesting on this is that if Ken was building a road out there and he needed some property, this means, looks like we'll be spending quite a bit more money to garner some property too. It would, and obviously 10 to 15,000 per acre. If it's a 100-acre farm out there and you're in Normanby, that in the last year we've probably seen a 100-acre parcel sell for $1 million, $1.2 million. A couple even up in Bentic. There's been a few in Glenelg that haven't been as much agricultural push towards that in the rural area, but because of recreational properties, they're moving in towards that price for the purchase. But it's a little larger than that 3 or 4 feet that's a lot addition. Yeah, that it's an old, it's a railway allowance. How much do you, where's the value you put onto that? And I think we've used kind of a running guide when somebody's come in, and certainly on purchasing for a road, the county has a formula base there that the county uses. It's certainly not even into the town of the Blue Mountains. It's not into those prices for that type of acquisition. Mark, and then Beth.
Yeah, the one thing also I noted in my report is an extra $1,000 was added to pay for legal costs as well, and for the cost of the surveys that were done when the former townships initially purchased the lands from the railway companies. Now, if you wish every property to be provided a separate valuation, regardless if they're an urban or rural, or if they're a building lot or not, I suppose that $1,000 amount could be increased by a few hundred to pay for whatever market valuation would cost. Then you would have an actual valuation for a specific property where it's located, so you might have a more accurate reflection of the value, and then just increase that with your, from 1,000 maybe to 1,200 or 1,300. So that would pay for itself there. That would be part of the fee.
Yeah.
That's something maybe council wants to consider.
Fee schedule. Councillor Cutting.
Well, can we just
Sorry, we asked Mark a month or so ago to go out and get, it's been 4 years, just to take a look at what is on the market, what the market would be, to establish that. I would suggest to council, we put it away because we're in budget right now. At some point in time, we're going to look at our fees and fee schedule. And this would be one thing that we're putting in there as well, too.
What I'm suggesting as well is that we...
Yeah, because it goes next with the next letter that we have. It has been 4 years since we've had Mr. Ray doing our letters of opinion for property sales, and it's been kind of an exclusive with them. And we have a company here, Cedar Glen, that is asking, the essence is to revisiting the tender process. And I know I've had conversations with Larry, and we do it pretty much on an annual basis for grass cutting and a few other things. So on a 4-year basis, I think would be worthy of that. So it kind of goes hand in hand, knowing what we may get on the market for doing letters of evaluation. As Mark said, putting that in on what our $1,000, is it $1,000, is it $800, or is it $1,200, and then be able to get that. So they go hand in hand, in my opinion. But I'm not going to sign the resolution. Somebody here can. Very good. Go ahead, Ken. Yep. Okay, Mark, you can show that Councillor Lawrence has declared a conflict on putting this out for tender. I have a motion moved by John A. Bell and seconded by Rob Thompson. Resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby directs municipal staff to secure requests for proposals for real estate services for the sale of municipal properties and the provision of market value assessments. Just the way that is, we really don't get a market value assessment on these. We get letters of opinion from real estate. Would the mover and seconder, just for clarification, be a little bit better with that?
Yeah.
because I know I have had that comment from real estate, that they don't do market value assessments or evaluations. It's letters of opinion, which we go by. So you're fine with that?
That's okay. That's a better term.
Okay. Okay, any questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. We'll show that Councillor Lawrence. Yeah, no, you can never sign there. Okay. And that's it, Mark?
That's it.
Very good. On to next. I got the CEO's report then coming up. Got it here someplace.
GD9, Your Worship.
There you are. You're looking for some delegations for...
That'd be correct, Your Worship. We just received notice through the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing that the online availability to request meetings with ministers for the 2015, and I apologize for that typo, the 2015 Roma Convention being held in February in Toronto is now open. Are there any delegations that we'd like to have? And one that I would put forth at this point in time is that our three compatriots here in the South, the Chatsworth, Greyhounds, and Southgates, would like to meet in a joint venture to push our discussions in regards to expanding natural gas availability to rural areas within our community. So that might be one that we may be interested in doing. And I would just suggest that we keep that on the burner for now until we get that clarification and involvement of the other parties that we would go with. But if there are other specific delegations that the Council would like to request, I'm more than happy to make the application on our behalf. So I seek your direction on that.
Okay, thanks, Larry. Has anybody got anything that they want to talk to? We just passed a letter on Ministry of Education. Does anybody want to go and talk to Minister Sandals and see what Liz would have to say to us? Can't hurt to give us her opinion. If we don't ask, we won't get. If we ask, we may get. So you got that one? Kind of got concurrence on that of Ministry of Education. Bev.
To bring that back up and reiterate our concerns and with experience our concerns.
Yeah, that was Ministry of Environment, am I right?
Yes, but
and climate change.
Do you think that's the only one that we should? I suppose they're the ones that receive all the reports and studies. So
yep.
I suppose
that's where the approval process goes through.
I suppose that would be the best. So see if we can get the delegation regarding the approval process and required submissions, et cetera. We can put that together and just reiterate again.
Fine
the process. If everybody's in agreement with that, it's just, I think it's important.
Yep. Anybody else got anything? I would like to, Ken. Sorry, go ahead.
I just wondered if council would consider a meeting with the Minister of Transportation just regarding the connecting link out here, because on Highway 6 going through Durham, because
there is a bridge there, and
How much money he's going to send with us when he hands
just to
it down?
keep the lines of communication open. I believe there is a new minister now. The Minister of Transportation has changed since the last.
Yep. So Minister, it's Steve Del Duca now. No, it's Del Duca. Murray's infrastructure. Yeah, he moved over to infrastructure. So, but it's Del Duca that is MTO. That would be one. I would suggest maybe another one for MTO. It's been kind of a collaborative. Was discussed the other day amongst a couple of mayors. MTO and the Ministry of Health, the aging at home and the transportation disability problems that's creating on, it's great that the ministry has individuals at home, but how do those individuals who don't have transportation get from their home to the hospital for their appointments to be able to stay at home and the checkups? And basically it was through SMART that came up, and the funding that MTO is not giving to SMART, and the funding that the Ministry of Health, who says they can't keep a patient in hospital at $1,000 a day, but they're not willing to give in rural Ontario any money for transportation, even at $50 a day, would be tremendous for those individuals that need that transportation. So if they're saving $1,000 by sending them home, maybe you could look at a couple of bucks for transportation funding in rural Ontario, because we have transportation, but it's a lot different funding model than it is, the subway in downtown Toronto, or even the transit systems in Kitchener, London. Bev?
Would there be consideration, I know it's on our municipality, but there's an awful lot of our residents that use it in the closure of the Chesley Rehabilitation Center. Is there any, any concerns that you'd like to bring up there? Because now our patients are going to be transported down to London. There's a cost to that, huge cost to that, because there's going to be ambulance services. And, the waiting list down in London is months and months compared to weeks up here. I don't know if it's something we want to tackle or whether we just want to leave it alone.
Any thoughts? Go ahead, John.
Well, that's definitely something I think probably should be looked at. And the reason I say that, I was just in receipt of an email this morning that mentions two people of one person's family, a sister and a father, who both use that facility in Chesley on an ongoing basis. So the fact they are both from Durham. So it does affect West Grey. There's no doubt about it.
Well, my dad was in there for 2 months under rehabilitation when he lost his first leg, and the number of people in Durham that I went in and spoke to while there or in West Grey was, I bet you over half of them were from West Grey at that point. So.
And I don't know whether, there was comment 2 weeks ago when the Markdale Hospital, they had the public meeting there, and they were talking about rehabilitation and that aspect. The Grey Bruce Health, or Grey Bruce Hospital, has designated 20 beds in Wyerton.
Yes.
But, the concern was the people in Dundalk that have been using the Markdale Hospital to do that convalescing, whether it's from heart surgery in St. Mary's in Kitchener, now to come back, and you may end up in Wyerton, or you may end up in London, or could be in Peterborough for that matter, but the idea that they were going to be in Wyerton didn't fit in very well with that aspect. So, closing those ones in Chesley, I think, certainly is a concern. Maybe it's a possibility that we could piggyback, because I think Aaron Elderslie is getting onto that, so it'd be one of those ones where it's a partnered thing. I know that the county is formulating one to meet with the Ministry of Health, or wants to meet with the Ministry of Health on the Markdale Hospital. And the 4 municipalities, lower tiers, will be suggested to be with them to push for an expedient build date. Not to just to say thank you for saying you're going to build it. Let's keep it going. So that one's out there, so I'd say let the county and we can piggyback on that one. Any other ones? Anybody want to take a swipe at M&R and see what they want to do with conservation?
It's got to be something.
Anybody want to make comment on red-sided days? Mr. Thompson?
No comment.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Doug.
Maybe something might be worth investigating with the Ministry of Environment, if that's the ministry, regarding recycling, and where that's going and the costs involved. It's definitely a big issue, and it's one that I think we'll have to look at more and more as time goes on. Is it the Ministry of Environment? Is that would fall under that umbrella? I think so, or not?
On recycling, on, what's it called, Ken? WD, or Waste Diversion. Yeah, Waste Diversion Ontario would be.
Would that be the Environment? Environment Ministry?
Yeah, it's the Environment that, not Energy, that looks after that. There was an arbitration settlement that come down. WDO was they were holding back 10 or 12 million. They were offering about 100 million, and the judgment come down and said, no, you got 116 million. Throw in the 16 million into the disbursement back to the municipalities. So I believe it was last week that came down. But certainly, as we saw in our budgets today, we pay more for picking up recyclables than we do our garbage. So, fine making the request and see what happens on that one? Okay, that one, Doug?
Sure.
You got the page full yet? Because once the page gets full, Larry, then we're stopping.
Just if I could summarize, Your Worship, I'll go through the meetings that are being proposed. One with the Minister of Education to discuss the proposed changes to the ARC process. 2, Ministry of the Environment to discuss the concerns with the approval process, the Ontario Energy Board, and secondly, to discuss recycling and the future costs arising therefrom. 3rd is meet with the Ministry of Transportation regarding connecting link and rural transportation. 4 is the Ministry of Health, which is twofold: aging at home and rural transportation to hospital and medical appointments. And the second item would be the Chesley Rehabilitation Center closure. So those are the 4 with 2 parts that I've got at this point in time. Is there any further delegations you're requesting? I'll contact Aaron to see if that's the wishes of council. Now, the other one, because Grey County is kind of leading a delegation in regards to the Markdale Hospital, I did not include a separate one for that. So. That is something I would want to consult with my fellow CAOs in regards to. We definitely want to make the pitch, but we'll just ascertain which is the best source to go to, if that's acceptable with council. Right.
It might be, and in knowing that it's infrastructure, it might be Minister Murray on infrastructure, economic development. John?
Yeah, just real quick, Larry, I would think that Chatsworth would probably want to be included in the rehabilitation center in Chesley, recognizing their proximity to Chesley. So they would probably want to be in on that.
You can bring that up with the mayor tomorrow if you meet him at County Council, sir.
No problem.
Very good. Yeah, Brockton would probably be another one.
For Chesley?
Yeah.
For the rehab?
Okay. All right. If we get many more delegations, won't see much of the conference. And let's be fair, we certainly won't get them all. Good points. Okay. The next one was a request from MP Larry Miller on the top 3 priorities for infrastructure, and you've got a couple listed here. Larry, do you want to comment further?
That would be correct, Your Worship. This is just a short list that Ken and I kind of went over in our heads last Wednesday afternoon, just prior to my departure for the meetings with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing last week. These are just some items. There are others out there. The numbers are kind of a wallop, but it certainly is. It certainly brings to point that we do have an infrastructure deficit within the community, and I would look to council for direction on what 3 priorities they would like to follow up on. If you're wondering where the numbers come from, Ken and I worked diligently on this for at least a half an hour to come up with these numbers for you. That's without engineering or anything else, but these are just numbers off the top of our head. For example, the $22.5 million for rural broadband to service West Grey, that's based on $45 per meter. There's 741 kilometers of roadway within the municipality. I estimated off the top of my head that a third of that is already serviced based on the linkages of Ayton and Neustadt and up to Hanover. So that would leave 500 kilometers. 500 kilometers at $45 per meter comes out to $22.5 million. So that's where that number came from. Ken provided a couple of estimates on potential bridge replacements. The sewer plant and SCADA system upgrades, easily $4.8 million, if not more. Connect the well to the system in Durham is a known figure. Ken provided that to me, of $865,000. Various storm system upgrades across the municipality. There's so many that we just estimated a ballpark of $1.5 million. We'd get a start on them. Urban road cross-section rehabilitation, that'd be sidewalks, sewer, storm, pavement, the whole 9 yards of approximately $7.5 million. Unknown for the extension of natural gas into our unserviced areas. And the last one is kind of a pipe dream, no, pardon the pun, in regards to getting treated water from Neustadt system over to Ayton and add a distribution system and standpipe. So that was just a $10 million figure that we kind of put together with EAs and everything else. So that is a foundation for council to consider, and we look forward to your direction.
Okay, thank you. That's very good. Yeah. Any comments? Any way to whittle that down to small three small numbers there? Well, the first 3 aren't the biggest, but
they're all important. I also would like to thank Ken for sticking around for this part of the discussion, and I would like to ask if he has any input he'd like to add for council's edification at this time.
Mr. Gould, what's your wish?
Well, as we talked about today there at the finance meeting, certainly that new well is one that for the town of Durham here to get it connected to the system is, I think, very important. I know we've tried at least 3 times to get funding from the province, and we've never been successful, but whether the federal government would be interested in water and sewer or not, I'm not sure, but that's definitely one that I would like to see connected to the system here.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Bell. John?
Okay, going along with that, and I would agree with Ken and his assessment. Ken, if we ever thought that Mr. Miller at the federal level would be able to come up with some money and perhaps he would be able to shame the provincial government into maybe offering up the same share, do you think that that theory could work? Or would that be one that we could draw on?
Are you talking about a 50-50 share, Mr. Bell?
Right now, 50-50 would be ideal. But if we didn't have to put any in, I don't think that'll happen. But even that third partnership, sometimes the federal government is a little bit quicker to act than maybe the provincial government. Not going to put anything about which color it would be where, but moving forward, we just wonder if maybe that might be able to be done. So I would certainly be in favor of Mr. Miller getting a hold of this, absolutely.
Okay. And it certainly is probably the one that we are closest to, shovel ready, to use that analogy. The well's there. It's just a matter of the infrastructure to get it flowing to the standpipe. And go ahead.
The only concern I have with the sewer and water project would be, unless we mystify them with the numbers, would be the fact that it's a full cost recovery basis and we could use the revenue from the monthly service to subsidize or pay for these. That's the only concern I have in regards to sewer and water. So perhaps if we were to combine that, as the system that would be receiving that would be one of our urban centers, that perhaps a say a nice round number of, say, 5.6 million application for sewer and water upgrades, which would include the SCADA sewage plant upgrades and the connection of the water, would be a prudent start as opposed to go with either or. Your worship.
Good idea. You don't have much to treat at the sewage treatment plant if you don't have water flowing into the pipes. So it'll be a little over $5 million to go with the sewer and the SCADA system and the Durham well. If we're putting that onto the environmental, not that any of the other ones are not as important, but to follow along on that line, then the water system for Ayton may be just as important when we keep talking about fresh water and safe and healthy water system. Of course, Ayton's quite possibly our second largest urban center in West Grey. That must be Newstead arguing that point with me. Is it Newstead or is it Ayton? It's the second, but obviously it's the largest urban center that doesn't have a water system. It would be a start towards getting full services there. But recognizing that's $10 million too, but it's one of those ones that at some point in time, we may have a problem in there. That'd be the next one. That's one I'm going to suggest anyways, is down there, and then you need a third one.
Yeah, you got the backing.
Mr. Bell.
No, I was just going to say, you get the backing on that with Walker and Inquiry and stuff, and I mean, there's more chance of getting that recognized in the exposure, I think, out of all of these. That is probably your best bang for the buck on that, definitely.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Cutting that broadband expansion. There's a lot of small businesses in the rural areas that would rely on this and help their businesses immensely, and just during our campaigning, there was quite a few people who expressed interest in that, and if we could do something in that avenue to help their homegrown business, it would be a bonus to this municipality.
Any arguments with that? Well, then, fine with putting those three forward then, Larry?
If that's council's direction, we shall do that, Your Worship.
We're fine in doing that on direction. That's what Mr. Miller is looking for, so if he gets 22, 27, if he gets 40 million from each municipality in Grey County, then he can come back with that.
I'm sure there will be a question or two as the placement of a comma or a zero will be required clarification, but we'll be happy to answer those questions on council's behalf.
Absolutely. Okay. Okay. Anything else, Larry?
I have one item that came in late last week, which I will bring up under new business, Your Worship, but I believe that covers the information in my report. And I just want to thank Council for the opportunity to attend the CAO's Forum and the Southwest Regional Conference last week in London. It was certainly an opportunity to network and learn from our peers and chat with the people in the industry in regards to current trends and where we're heading. There was some very informative information there, which we'll try to work into Council's regime on budgets and strategic planning, Your Worship. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. Very good. You don't need to reinvent. Sometimes you just got to beg, borrow, and steal. It's a lot better way of finding policy out there. So, okay. Well, if there's no other questions for Larry, then we'll go into bylaws, which I believe we have 3 tonight, Mark. And we have those resolutions out there to make those bylaws. In the appointment, did you read some of that list? Yeah. Yeah. To give me second. That's 85. That's 86, and there's 80. No, I didn't see that. Yeah. Okay. All right, moving into bylaws then. I have bylaw number 84, which is being coming forward from the planning, being recommended. It's a bylaw to deal with rezoning lands. Have the motion moved by Rob Thompson and seconded by John A. Bell. Be it resolved that bylaw number 84, 2014, being a bylaw to rezone lands described as part lots 58 to 60, concession 1 NDR, geographic township of Bentig, Donald Mighton, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, deputy clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Any questions or comments on this motion? Call the question then. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Okay, there you are. Thanks, Mark. The second bylaw is bylaw number 85. We passed bylaw number 81 as appointing officials to various committees. Excuse me, we have a couple of additions have come in since the inaugural. And Mark, do you want to make a note of those?
Yes. Rob Leno was removed as a member of the Durham Cemetery Board. He was no longer interested in being part of the board. And we have understand from the County of Grey that the Grey-Bruce Regional Economic Development and Partnership Committee is no longer in existence, so John A. Bell's appointment has been removed from that as well.
Have you ever attended?
Under the West Grey Parks Committee, Andy and Val Stimpson were no longer interested in participating in that committee, so their names were removed, and the names of Mary Becker and Verna Beckenhauer were added to the Parks Committee. Jackie Gingrich's name was inadvertently placed on the West Grey Property Standards Committee, so that has been removed, and the name of Robert Miller has been added to that committee. I also have, Mayor Eccles has just confirmed that John Eccles has agreed to stand on the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority Board of Directors, so that name should be added to the bylaw, and therefore it should be passed as amended if council deems that appropriate.
All right, any, so we'll introduce the motion. It's moved by Don B. Marshall and seconded by Bev Cutting. Be it resolved that bylaw number 85, 2014, being a bylaw to appoint officials to various committees of the Corporation and Municipality of West Grey, rescinds bylaw number 81, 2014, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and the CEO, Deputy Clerk, sealed with the seal of the Corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Any questions or comments on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. There you go, Mark. And the last bylaw, number 86, is a housekeeping bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council for 2014.
It's really this meeting.
Or this meeting? Oh, sorry, yeah, we did one. Yeah, we've done.
Extenuating circumstances.
But just to make sure that we've got it all covered off. So I have a motion moved by Doug Hutchison, seconded by Rob Thompson. Be it resolved that bylaw number 86, 2014, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the Mayor and the CEO, Deputy Clerk, sealed with the seal of the Corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Is there any questions or comments on this motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Okay. And that's it for bylaws, Mark. All right, and then that should move us down, if I'm not mistaken. Get through the agenda here. New business. And Larry, CEO, Mr. Adams.
Your Worship, I have a request from the 5-Star Food Hub. That's the joint organization that is trying to represent Grey, Bruce, Huron, Perth, and Wellington counties as a food hub within the 100-mile journey sort of thing. We passed a letter earlier this year on a recommendation from Economic Development to support them in principle. We recently received, actually last Thursday, we received a request from the Huron Food Action Network, which is kind of the overarching group that's kind of coordinating this 5-Star Food Hub, and they would like to resubmit an application to the local food fund application on behalf of all 5 counties, and they would also like to request that a donation towards offsetting the cost of this application to subsidize a staff person to look into this in the amount of a few more $1,000 would get us much further, quote unquote, in their letter. And I have a copy of that email which I'll distribute if you wouldn't mind passing along so we can have a look at. So I come to you tonight looking for some direction from council in regards to this request for a monetary contribution towards this 5-Star Food Hub. I can provide a bit of additional information should council so desire, but this was something that we discussed last term, and we did get a recommendation from Economic Development to support the program in principle, but now they're coming back looking for a monetary donation, so I look for council's direction in regards to this request. Sir, because it was walked in, would you like me to read it? Everyone has a copy of the resolution with the sole exception of the public. I'd be happy to read it if that's acceptable, or however council wishes to approach it. I apologize for leaving the public out of that. Sorry about that, folks.
Yeah, sure, if you want to, Larry.
It's request from Gail Kreutzberg. Hello, everyone. The Huron Food Action Network had their annual general meeting last night. I was directed to ask you all whether we should proceed with resubmitting the local food fund application on behalf of 5 counties with the hope that they might look at it this time. Our last submission got mired with all kinds of difficulties, including a maternity leave. We would also like to ask whether you could offer some matching funds, even if it were a small enough amount that would not require a lengthy board or council approval process. A few more $1,000s would get us much further. If you have any questions regarding matching funds, please contact Paul, which is Paul Nichols from the Huron Business Development Corporation, as the lead applicant as before. We would all appreciate hearing from you about this urgent matter. We only have until mid-January. Thank you. And based on that last comment, mid-January, that's why I thought it prudent to bring it forward to this council meeting this evening, Your Worship.
Any questions, comments, thoughts? Councillor Hutchison.
I just would, could someone give us some more information? Like, do you know the background on this Huron Food Action Network? Are they, like, what is this all about? I'm not sure.
What they're attempting to do, it started out in Huron County being a good food box, which was a box of food delivered monthly to people who requested or purchased the box, all with local produce from local manufacturers or local farmers within the county itself. It has expanded to be worked out of Lucknow now. It used to be a county project in Huron. Now it's under the auspice of the Grey Bruce Good Food Box, or sorry, the Huron Bruce Good Food Box. It's run out of Lucknow, and they provide the same type of service, but it's run by an organization outside of the government. What they've done is they wanted to expand that and kind of target the 5 municipalities being Bruce, Grey, Huron, Perth, and Wellington counties to be a hub. They're close enough, if the 5 of us join, to be within the 100-kilometer trip or 100-mile trip down to the City of Toronto, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to market local produce to an expanding market, and they'd like to coordinate that through this food hub, if you will. So it would be the local producers producing their local product, which will be brought in and processed and then shipped down to markets in the area. Not only would it be provided to our own local markets, but also to markets like the Greater Toronto area and that sort of thing within a certain geographic parameter. And that's the basis of this. They're becoming quite popular. They're popular in the United Kingdom. They're popular in the States, and they're growing in popularity here. And what it is an opportunity for farmers who produce the product to get their produce down to the market, get it into the stream to get it down there without going through the whole third or fourth party grocery store style change.
Does this not sound similar to the one in Flesherton? Isn't there something similar organized there?
Yes.
Where they're using local grown food, shipping directly to the restaurants?
Yeah.
Right?
Quite right. Very same concept.
If I'm not mistaken, Your Worship, that organization is actually part of this larger consortium that they're trying to get together. They have representation that sits on this volunteer board, if you will.
Well, I mean, we're inundated by many requests from many organizations as to want to be us included. I just in conversation with the mayor and through tax dollars that do flow from West Grey to Grey County. Grey County has made contributions to the organization in Flesherton, and so although I know that this is very worthwhile, I don't know where you draw the line, especially when we have through budget for about 4.5 hours this afternoon, and we're overwhelmed by the seriousness of some of the things that we have to contribute to. So at this time, I can't see attaching dollars to this one, Mr. CEO, and I think the letter needs to be sent back to that effect. Mm-hmm. That's my opinion.
Mark?
Yeah, we do have another budget. Council does have another budget meeting January 7th. Perhaps at that time the treasurer would be prepared to provide the different requests from grants from organizations. Perhaps at that time Council could consider this as well as any other ones, whether you support it or not. But it's probably better to resist the tyranny of the urgent and deal with these kinds of requests as much as possible as a whole rather than as a individual request.
The one thing that hasn't come out of this, because it's the 4 or 5 municipalities that is being targeted by Ms. Kurtzberg and the organization. They do have something in Lucknow right now, but they would be looking at something that would be more central to the 5 municipalities on pulling this together for the hub, on bringing the produce in from the 2-acre market garden to the 20-acre orchard that would be supplying product. It's kind of a cooperative program that they're trying to put together. But it's interesting because the only reason I bring that up is West Grey, Minto, South Bruce, what's the other one, Howick, is the target area. Is there something in that? Is there a building within that 5-6 kilometer area, basically around Clifford, that is the central point? 5-6 miles, indicating in there is where they would like, because they need, if it was ever to go ahead, you need a place to come together, basically box and do this up. It's not a subsidized, food bank type of thing. It is, a way to market local produce, whether it be root vegetables, fruits, any of that nature, that they're looking to put together under a cooperative basis. So whether there's something that would be positive coming out of that for West Grey, maybe it's just as much as a letter of support and no dollars attached to it at this point in time. But that's up to council. And I think Mark is right. We probably do have until, the 7th to consider it and maybe get a little bit more information onto it. I do agree with you, Mr. Bell. How much do we support out there? But it may be one of those things of economic development for some of our small farming operations that we could help out food producers there. The Mennonite population has one, and I think you're very much aware of that, kind of the same concept just outside of Elmira, how they work. And there's another one over at Holyrood, Lucknow, that the Mennonites have there as well too, on a market 2 days, sometimes 3 days a week in the summertime for food, local food for sale. Theirs is on a more of a wholesale, and this one was going to be on more, as Larry had said, more of a retail family package on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. So, would council be in favor of doing a little bit more research and taking this to the next meeting to be able to bring back an informed decision on it? See, Doug's going, yeah. Rob's still being...
I'd just like to find out more about this, a little more background on who these people are and so on before we just make a decision.
I guess I'm making... I know, and I've known Gail for quite a while. She's worked, she has worked with the Flesherton one, done a fair bit of this work, and I know Gail personally, so I do have a bit more information on it. I think if we can gather a bit more and ask Gail to supply a bit, she'll be more than happy to do that, and we can leave that in your mailbox and consider it. Larry?
Your Worship, I'll be happy to redistribute the information we first received in regards to this to all the members of council so they have it available for their review prior to the January 7th meeting.
Okay. All right. What else? What else? Oh, yes, new business. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd
Rob?
like to bring forward a request to this council that we change the start time of our committee of the whole for the afternoon session from 1 p.m. till 9 a.m., bring it back to where it used to be. Simply because, well, we have the CEO and the clerk here, and it's now 5 after 9, and they won't get home till after 11 and turn around and be back in here in the morning is one of the issues. We did it because the fire chief and his 3 deputies were able to come to meetings, and talking with the fire chief, it's costing him for those officers to be here, and they're not really providing any further information to the committee when they do come. It's kind of undermining the chief's authority, and I feel that maybe that's a cost savings, and if there's anything serious, there is still one evening council meeting a month, which we'd like tonight, and if there's an issue, they could bring it forward or bring it to the chief and bring it that way. And Public Works, the 2 road fellows come in and they do a written report and submit it in our packages, and they just read through it again. So it's really not necessary for them to be here off the roads where they could be doing what they have to do each day. And I feel that if we could change the times back from the 1 o'clock to 9 a.m. start, just a request.
Anybody got a problem with that? Carol?
I don't have a problem. I don't like the 1 o'clock, but we did do that because we had eliminated our committees. And we did have a fire committee, which worked very well, and the deputies came into that, and that was to accommodate them coming in here. Perhaps in line with what Rob's thinking, though, is if there is a particular issue, we could request that they be here. However, I do not agree with not bringing in Steve and Tim, because again, we eliminated the Public Works Committee, and there's sometimes, quite often, there's discussion other than what's on their written report. They are frontline, they do have the answers. I certainly wouldn't agree to not having them attend. But I certainly like the 1 o'clock, or the 9 o'clock better than the 1 o'clock.
Okay, Rob? Yeah, you
Just in response to that, yeah, I mean, if we started at 9, and in the past, every other month was 1 o'clock start, and they would normally be here around 4. Normally, on the committee of the whole, we run all day anyways, and they could come in maybe 2 or 2:30 or so and do their report at that time. At least we can get at our committee meetings. I find that when it comes time late in the evening, we're not spending enough time on the individual committees and finding out what each councillor is doing and so on. There's not enough information being relayed. We're rushing through. We're basically in a brain dead is what we are at this time of night, and it's time to maybe, if we started early enough, maybe we could resolve some of these issues and move forward. And I say, yeah, if they wanted to come. I know the deputies, and that's just talking with the fire chief, if there was an issue, they would take it to him, and then he would bring it on. And I guess if we had a question or two, we could ask them at a future community meeting.
Okay. Can we?
Just have to get a resolution for next meeting. Yes.
I would say just have it as a resolution for the next meeting and, review it, see how we're getting along with it. It's, committee of the whole was here as, process. Nothing saying that we can't improve it. So if this would improve and the availability, certainly for our Public Works, Steve and Tim, I know Tim works here in the office a fair bit, and Steve's usually not that far away. Probably 60 or 70% of his time is spent here in the urban area in Durham anyway, so I think that would work out fine. Any other further comments on that then? No? Okay. Addendum, if there's new business? Oh, I thought you were going to do this under addendums, but new business, go ahead then.
I have something else.
Oh. Okay, Bev, new business.
It's annoying. I would like to request, under the signature of the mayor, that a thank you letter be sent to the Durham North Wellington Co-op for their donations throughout the year for different functions that the Parks Committee has put on, things like mostly the floats, but there's also other times when they donate flowers or trees for the
Okay, the letter, I think, can be done under new business. We'll need a, for the second one, Bev, I think we'll need to do that as a notice of motion or an addendum because it require resolution to go through that way.
The third one, the two letters, there's two letters.
The two letters could go under new business, could they not? The letter
I
of
think
thanks
you're saying
for
the gift
the
certificate
many volunteer hours.
Yeah, the gift certificate is getting into financial, and I'd like to have that one under, if we were looking at it that way. Carol, Councilor Lawrence.
Well, I know you're aware, Mr. Mayor, but I don't know how much all of council's aware of the work those volunteers are doing, and I know you and I were talking about it, but just for everybody's information, the weekend before the Durham bridge lighting, they spent, the parks, those four, and particularly two of them, spent the whole weekend making those round lighted balls that are on the bridge tree there of their free time. That's given freely. And then they worked until 2:30, I think it was, the morning of the parades on the floats, and got up at 6 o'clock and went and worked again on them. I mean, that is one heck of a commitment of volunteer time, and it's far and over and above, the call of duty, and I agree that it certainly needs to be recognized and appreciated by everybody. And I just want to make sure council was aware of the kinds of hours that are going in there.
Anybody arguing with me on the directors, on the letters? On direction? And nice to our businesses that do support. Okay. And Bev, you want to bring up under a notice of motion?
Be a direct motion.
Or a direct motion?
For the Rona, yes, I'll do that.
For the,
And
yeah, unless we're done new business. Anybody else got any new business?
The only reason I do that, every time that buzzes, if I press my speaker on, it takes the buzz away.
We're getting a hold of the...
Yeah, we're getting all of the communications people, so we'll see if we can get it adjusted as well, too. Okay? So I think, Mark, I'm getting consensus on the thank you letters, and we'll get those drafted up and sent out then. Bev? Addendums, going down the agenda, notice of motion or direct motion. I'll need 2/3 majority of council to introduce that. Mark, do you have introduce?
Yeah, there's another direct motion that the special committee of the whole meeting discussed about giving approval for Bev Burgess to hold 3 one-day events at the former Rona property during somewhere between January, February 2015 timeframe.
Correct. And the second one, Bev, I think you want to bring that one forward, is to recognize the volunteers for the municipality float, Santa Claus, and Winter Wonderland, and the homecoming, whatever. Yeah, Volunteer Parks Committee. Okay. 2/3. Those are the 2 direct motions. All those in favor of introducing the 2 direct motions? Any opposed? That's got the 2/3 majority, Mark. If you can hand those out, we're away. Hopefully it will be. I have a motion moved by Rob Thompson, seconded by Doug Hutchison. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby supports the request from Bev Burgess to hold 3 one-day events at the former Rona property during the January-February timeframe, and further that municipal staff work with Bev Burgess on the formation of a budget to deal with other pertinent issues such as insurance coverage, etc. Okay? Any questions or comments on the motion? This was coming from Committee of the Whole today and discussed there. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. We have a motion moved by Carol Lawrence and seconded by Bev Cutting. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby approves gift certificates in the amount of $25 be given to Trish Black, Steve Earhart, and Bob and Teddy Franklin as a token of appreciation for the many volunteer hours spent on the West Grey Parks Committee, specifically the Winter Wonderland program. Okay. Mr. Bell, comment.
Yeah, just to clear, is this coming out of the winnings from the floats that they had from the weekend?
No.
And I guess why? Or why not? So there's an explanation. Where is it coming from then?
there is still some money in the, I don't know what she said specifically, but there is some, a few funds. There are a few funds, enough to cover this in the council miscellaneous.
Miscellaneous, that's right.
Which I think has still somewhere between $400 and $500 in that budget line.
Okay, so we're going to take it out of there then? Is that where it's going to come from? Because I think it should be identified. It should be where it should come from.
Any other questions or comments? Don?
Well, I appreciate all the work they do, and I know that they do a lot. You see them everywhere. But I think we're setting a bit of a precedence here, because I know there's a lot of other people, even behind the scenes, that do a lot of volunteer work. So I just don't want to set that precedence. They know it's a volunteer job. They're doing it for, I think, the love of they want to do that for the municipality. So I can't support the buying the certificates.
Good. Any other comments? I'll call the question then. Any opposed? Declare that carried. Okay. Mark? That's it for notice of motions. Mark? If council would indulge, we do have a closed session dealing with the employee negotiation. So instead of going directly into closed session, I'd like to drop down, skip over and do question period, which is time for anybody in the audience to ask a question on something that, or on any of the things that were on the agenda this evening. So I will open it up. You want to start with Mr. Crosby and work across? No, no, no.
One question for Rich.
Could I just give your name for the minutes and, yeah.
Brenda Tessel. I had a question about the bridge that you were discussing earlier. The Normandy Carrot Bridge.
The bridge is
Did they take it out of
30. Well, there's a possibility it could be taken out there, you know, cut and taken out in pieces and or just picked up with a crane and set on a flatbed was, the last time I was talking to the engineers, that's what they had anticipated 6 to 8 months ago, and, you know, disposed of for recycling or scrap iron. But if the snowmobile club, I guess it's about 60. No, it's not quite 60 feet. I think it's 45 feet. It is out of steel. For road traffic, obviously it's getting kind of rusted, but at a 5-ton limit, you'd take an awful lot of snowmobiles on it to get to be 5 ton. Unless they're the size I am, the individual riders, and that would add up quickly. Yeah.
I just thought that, you know, I was there, and if we're just going to scrap it, it could be taken to the snowmobile club meeting next week, and if they have a place that it might work for, that
Yep.
might be happy.
Would certainly look for a small remuneration for it, and the gift could be theirs, but it won't be available this snowmobile season.
No, well, the trails are all up, ready to go for this season.
Yes, yeah, understanding.
Okay, I'll mention it. My husband's on actually he's on the South Grade Committee. So they're always looking for bridges.
For infrastructure.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, very good. All right, thanks, Byron. Any other questions? Ms. Mitchell. Harriet.
I'm sure it's occurred.
I would say that it's a huge elephant in the room, obviously, for rural Ontario to get that lens, to be able to look at that. One of the issues in Graham Bruce, we're 17 people per square kilometer on our population density, and a lot of those funding formulas start at 100, and quite a few of them start at 10,000 people per square kilometer. There are two boards, the AMO board, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, represent, and ROMA, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association. Both have dialogue and are still trying to work with the provincial government, the governing body at this point in time. And on most minister meetings that I've been part of representing rural Ontario, it's probably if it's not the first sentence, it's the second one.
Yep.
This is a rural Ontario problem. We're here to give you, our suggestions on solution. So it is addressed, Harriet, but as much as you can talk, the conversation, you've got to have somebody on the other side that's listening to be able to consider it communication. I think it's recognized, but they're not willing, the provincial government at this point in time is having a very difficult time on addressing how to solve the split, because they still want to look at Ontario as a whole, and one solution won't fit all. And I think you know that, I know that. It's trying to get not only the elected officials, but more so the bureaucrats that are developing the policy in Queen's Park to recognize that, and that they may have to come up with two policies. And at some points, it'll probably be three, because Phenom and Northern Ontario have a bit of that already, but they're always asking for more up there north of the French River. So, thank you. No, I'm glad that you recognize it. I'm just wishing that, 386,000 bureaucrats at Queen's Park would recognize it as well, too. Yeah. Yes, it is votes. Political process. Well, I don't know whether it's about making our own province or just separating Toronto and having a province back. Okay. Any other questions? All right. As I did say, we do have a closed session, and we will be going into closed session. So I have a motion moved by John A. Bell and seconded by Rob Thompson. Whereas the Municipal Act SO 2001, Section 239-2 authorizes council of the municipality to close to the public a meeting or part of a meeting for dealing with certain subject matters. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey does now go into a closed session of council at 9:33 p.m. with the clerk to discuss the item that relates to labor relations or employee negotiations. Call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. Yeah, all right. Do you want to go into the... I think we'll say goodnight to everybody out there in Media Land.
TV man.
Thank you, Mark.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.